As promised, yeah, the aspirational song, yogic song of Kuntuzangpo, they call it a prayer, but I don't really get prayer vibes off of it. I get more song, rejoicing, yogic vibes off of it. But it's up to you. I don't want to take that away from you. If you feel it's a prayer, then I think that is totally acceptable. Um, but the thing is, it's about our mind, okay? It's about our wonderful mind and the union with divinity, the union with the ineffable, like water being poured into water, they say, or like the space inside of a vase meeting the space outside of the vase when it breaks. So that's the part we leave as X the most. When we release our conditioning, what are we releasing into? And as, for example, Kempo Dongya has answered the question, do we still have our own mind? If you look at inborn realization, Dujum Rinpoche Mountain Retreat instructions, there you will see he is asked about that, and he said every being, even Shakyamuni Buddha, has their own mind, and they are the master of their own universe in that way, or their own reality, we can say. So, in that regard, paradoxically, you still have your own mind, but it's beginning to mingle with the great mind, right? Just to keep it conventional here. And that's what this is about. That's Kuntuzangpo. In Tibetan, it means, or excuse me, in Sanskrit, it's Samantabhadra, right? And that means the all good. So, really, the all good, pristine goodness. And Samantabhadri is not usually mentioned, but so there are two different ways these Dharmakaya personifications can be represented. One is when you see them in union, that's great because you see Sambhogakaya and Dharmakaya in union, and the image itself is Nirmanakaya, right? You're seeing something there. And so you have all three kayas hidden into that iconography. Um, Typically, Samantabhadri would be associated with Dharmakaya, emptiness, the Tathagata God womb. Mm-hmm. Oh, Maki, you came unmuted there. No worries. So, yeah, Samantabhadra would represent the pure cognizant aspect in union with Samantabhadri. So, just like in a dream, you need mind, you need some kind of thought to create the forest or the mountain in your dream. And it needs to happen in some kind of space so that the cognizance that's creating the dream would be the male aspect, the activity aspect, and then the space in which that's unionizing or co-emerging is the feminine aspect, okay? Samantabhadri. So you'll see those in union, and then the dream itself would be Nirmanakaya, the child. So we have this great triad, trichotomy that's been thousands and thousands of years old. And it just talks about your mind. It's so beautiful and it's hidden everywhere. And this wonderful, timeless truth. Now, this Kuntuzangpo Mönlam, as it's called, has a really cool synchronicity actually. It was revealed, it's considered a terma, treasure that was revealed in the 1400s by Rigzen Godemchen, sometimes called uh, Rigzen Godem, but also being called Rigzen Godemchen, around the time of Longchenpa. So very cool. And what is the synchronicity of him revealing these northern treasures of the Nintik tradition in the north? It's because uh, with Rigson, he's using it's not a new revelation. I've said this quite often that termas are not new revelations. They're essentially condensed dharma, a new presentation for the times. Sometimes there is stuff that's added in there, like visionary accounts and whatnot, but the core of it's the same, and we see that in this case because um, Riggs and Godin didn't just reveal or put together the Kuntuzangpo Mönlam that we're reading here, which is a thorough Dzogchen teaching or rejoicement. Um, but he also revealed something called the whispered ear lineage, or the whispered ear of Vimalamitra, which has 11 words and meaning. Anybody know what that's related to? It has 11 words and meanings. It's related to word and meaning, Longchenpa's word and meaning, which is a summary of the treasury of the supreme vehicle. So one of Longchenpa's treasury is being, he has 7 treasuries in 1300s. One of them is being summarized into what's called the treasury of word and meaning, but sometimes it's called many other things. Okay, it has many other translations. But here you have around the 1300s the same 11 words and their meanings, 11 chapters that are essentially sourced from the Pearl Garland root tantra. Okay, so we got to think very early on here. And how do we know that? Because 100 years before Longchenpa and Rigzen Godem, we had a yogi called Nyingma Bum. Nyingma Bum. So the sun. We have the Dawas and the Nyingmas. And that yogi in the 12 and 1300s, or excuse me, probably 11, 1200s, created a text called the 11 Words and Meaning. And that predated Longchenpa. So they're essentially just passing the torch, aren't they? And that can be found, that 11 words and meanings can be found in the root tantras, of course. And we've heard these. So there we have a great synchronicity, all right, of the text we'll be reading in the European time zone, which will start tomorrow. That'll be 2 p.m. Eastern time. It'll be 8 p.m. for the Europeans, and give or take a few hours for that time zone, that time slot. But so we'll be reading Longchenpa's Precious Treasury of Genuine Meaning. I think it's translated, that book, the title. But it's the same. The Precious Treasure of Word and Meaning, same thing. In that regard, then, we have a really cool synchronicity today on the full moon happening with this Kuntuzangpo Mönlam, okay? And this condenses the teachings into, well, relatively speaking, it's actually very short. I'd say, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 minutes long if you sing it or chant it. And that's pretty short for condensing the Nintik lineage of Garb Dorje, all right? Because all of this is stemming from Garb Dorje, and then probably Kukurepa, the dog yogi, before him, and then really this yogic lineage. Because if you look up the 5 jhana Buddhas, oh, it's so fascinating. They're so ancient and timeless. And so that's what the core of this. The 5 jhana Buddhas are the 5 lights, where all reality is made out of. So you have these ancients, perhaps not, maybe even timeless beings, reminding us through iconography, through archetypes and personifications of the 5 jhana Buddhas, that the 5 lights, which are none other than the 5 elements. So just like a dream right now, just like computers make every color out of RGB, red, green, and blue, and sometimes CMYK, where they include yellow, well, the Dharma has always had red, green, blue, yellow, and clear, white. So you have the 5 lights there. Mind reifies, solidifies them into elements. And then, of course, you could branch that out into subdivisions all you want. But we're keeping it simple here today. So just like a dream, when you go into this dream, you have the appearance of feeling, sounds, smells, thoughts, tactile sensations. You have all this created by the 5 lights of your mind, including the visionary account. Even a blind man has a visual consciousness. This is because the visual consciousness is not limited to any of the organs. You see, it's mind. And the organs are also mind. And then, and there's an aggregate of consciousness that presupposes the organ, that has been involved in the evolution of the organ. How do you think the organ of the eye or the ear got made? By the consciousness of hearing, the activity of seeing. So, in this regard, um, really, when you're dreaming, any image, a mountain, a forest, an abstract painting, tie dye t shirts, can all be created by your mind using just the five colors. All right? And so that's the premise. The yogis will begin to see that because they're introduced to Togya light practices that let them begin to decrystallize, unreify um, the tight hold on this world that our mind is making. The brain is the main organ for that, of course, and highly involved in that. And so that cartoon starts to come apart within Dzogchen Shamatha, and you're able to see the luminosity with the mind. The mind reveals the luminosity, okay? Especially as we back out of the subject action object trichotomy into the Dharma, Sambhoga, and Nirmanakaya trichotomy. And in that way, there's the appearance of transformation or purification or even realization, the appearance of. And then there's the abiding as the dream, as mind. You see, that's what Kuntuzangpo is truly about. Kuntuzangmo, the union of those. All right, and as well as Dzogchen in general, it can all be simplified if you rest here with me in the presence, free of thought. Even if you have thoughts, it's okay, but stay here in the presence with me. See, all words are coming from here. This is the basis, the foundation, they call the ground. But it starts here. And there's a deep, profound freedom within this pure presence. Now, there may be something that tries to pull me away right now. And if I let that urge, that impulse come and go, or the density of my thought dimension, then I will be here, completely free. Even if one of my arms was cut off and I was bleeding right now, I could still find this place. Sorry to get graphic on you if you're sensitive, but this is the case. It doesn't take any effort, but we have to first see it. There's the appearance of realization, and we recognize it. That's it, recognizing it, and then letting the conditioning thaw out, which there's the appearance of time. And there's nothing that can obscure this whatsoever. That would be like splashing around in the water and saying that the waves are obscuring the ocean. Anything you're doing is still cognition, it's still cognizance, it's still consciousness. We don't have the greatest words for this. So even if you're thinking a billion thoughts right now, which you can't, according to modern science, but you have about 50,000 of them, right? Even if you had all the emotions in the world, they would never not be living intelligence. They would never not be pristine mind. Now you'll internalize that as a belief, perhaps, but this is really something to see. Can I sit through an impulse? Can I sit through something that's on my mind? Can I let a thought come and go instead of grabbing it and proliferating into it? Those will be the moments where the view really, really shines. And then you get your freedom. All these people have been selling you this idea of freedom for so long through so many years of the Dharma and religions and spirituality. This is the ticket, okay? And It came free. Can you believe it? So that's my introduction. I gave you kind of the outer, inner, and secret because this is all about the view. All right. Did I miss any questions? Are there any questions about the Kuntuzangpo, Mönlam, and the view? And the five jhana Buddhas, which it's in here. The eight conditioned aspects of the conditioned mind, so the programmed mind, um, when those start to thaw out, they call the five aspects of your awakened mind. So this all-accomplishing wisdom, wisdom of equality, wisdom of dharma dhatu, mirror-like wisdom, wisdom of discernment, all represented by the five jhana Buddhas and the five colors that you see Tibetan prayer flags and so many other places. Yes, Oza. Especially the second portion in Tibetan. All right, any other questions? And I'll emphasize again, some people have even publicly in this group said, oh, this is just a Dharma revelation. But no, it's not. It's coming from Rigzen Godem's mind, and you can clearly see the same stuff that Naguma was presenting in the 10th, 11th centuries. So we got the 900s and the 1000s. The same, and she was quoting the Kunyagalpo, the Kulaya Raja Tantra in the 900s, which is attributed to Sri Singha and Vimalamitra in the early 700s, 600s. So this stuff goes back, everybody. It goes back. And it's just like Migyu Dorje and my lineage, our lineage, whoever has the Namcho daily practice, the Namcho cycle. This is all Dharma. There's nothing in there that's novel. It may be condensed a little bit, it may be repackaged, but it's all the Dharma. And so dharmas kind of get a bad rap for being some new inventions sometimes. And I suppose in some cases they are, but the authentic ones seem to be just repackaging for the times, for the audience. All right, everybody. So we're very lucky this landed on the moon. We're very lucky to have our ears and our voices and our bodies to participate in this. And I'll go through it in English without explanation first, so you can really get an idea of how it relates to Dzogchen. And then after that will be Tibetan, Sanskrit. Yeah. So yeah, this comes from the Tantra of the Great Perfection that reveals the all-penetrating wisdom mind of Samantabhadra, revealed by Rigzen Godem. Emaho, all that appears and exists, samsara and nirvana, has one ground, two paths, and two forms of fruition. The magical displays of awareness and unawareness. Through this, Samantabhadra's prayer of aspiration, may all attain complete and perfect awakening within the palace of Dharmadhatu, the absolute sphere. And I want to say it's considered very auspicious just to hear this. So if you end up chanting along when we go through it or not, just the main thing is to abide in the view. Okay, let it be a kind of meditation, and just to hear this, even the bugs hearing it is considered. They will awaken, in a shorter time because of that. So I don't know if that's true. It's an oral transmission lineage, or whispered lineage. I think those are related. So stop bugging. So I would say it's possible. Yeah, I believe mantras within the view particularly have a profound effect. So it says the basis of everything is uncompounded, a self-originating expanse vast and inexpressible, beyond the names samsara and nirvana. This itself, when seen, is awakening. But in their ignorance, beings wander in samsara. May all sentient beings throughout the three realms realize the meaning of the ineffable ground. So beautiful, right? May all beings realize their awareness. Yeah, we can just keep on going. I'm not going to comment too much. I, Samantabhadra, know the ground's reality, which is without cause or condition. It originates by itself within this very ground, is unspoilt by perspective, supposition, or denial, and unstained by the darkness of unmindful delusion. See, that's what I was telling Dundrop. Even if you're distracted, it's not going to stain anything. So that which is self-manifest is thus without fault. When abiding in genuine intrinsic awareness, there is no fear, even at the triple world's demise, nor is there attachment to the five sensory delights. In self-originating awareness, free of concepts, there is neither solid form nor the five poisons. The unobstructed clarity of awareness is one in essence and fivefold in wisdom. Five wisdoms. The five original Buddha families arise, and through wisdom's further expansion, the 42 peaceful Buddhas emerge. With the upsurge of fivefold wisdom's power, the 60 blood-drinking Harukas appear. Those are the wrathful deities. So again, just like everything else, these are personifications of actual mind elements. These are the peaceful and wrathful energies you have in your body. And you can continue to break them down into a Bindu pixel. And that's when they say you can see the deity within the Bindu. That's self-secret. That's why I always ask you all, tell me what you're seeing when you do the Togyo practice. Tell me what you're seeing, because I'm not going to implant a belief into your head or implant a belief into the collective. So you tell me, but I'll give you a hint. Those Buddhas, whether they're wrathful or peaceful within the Bindu of Togyo, they will appear in abstract ways. It may not be a full lotus little person there. Okay. All right. So it says, thus, ground awareness has never known delusion. I am the primordial Buddha, and therefore, through this, my prayer of aspiration, may beings of samsara's three realms recognize self-originating awareness. And this is basically like if there's a pure mind that we've always been a part of, but we distort ourselves, we displace ourselves out of it, like a whirlpool within a pristine lake, or like a flickering reflection within a pristine mirror. Our mind has been granted this blessing of reflexivity, of co-emergent creation. And for whatever reason, our minds blossom on a grand mirror, and we start out as the appearance of reflections. We think we're the reflections in the mirror. But then once we blossom out, we realize that we've always been part of the mirror, like the baby is part of the mom. And so in that regard, there's a grand cognizance here, an infinite consciousness that we start to unionize and harmonize with. That's the basis for Tukka. That's the basis for our harmonization. How else could we harmonize our mind if we didn't have a basis? So in that regard, primordial purity, some call it God and many names, sort of holds us and holds the appearance of our spiritual evolution. But that's what's talking here, and it's saying, may all beings be free And may all beings realize their intrinsic liberation. So recognizing self-originating awareness. So the mirror itself is the reflection in the mirror is recognizing that it has always been the mirror, even though it gets caught up being a reflection. So that's why it's called self-cognizing or self-originating, because it has never left the mirror. So that vast wisdom may be perfected. So I hope you're really getting the point that this is lots of Dzogchen in here, and then whatever else you're getting from it, which is wonderful. So continuously my emanations will appear in their many billions beyond imagining, manifest in varied ways according to need. Through this, my compassionate aspiration, may all the beings of samsara's 3 realms escape their plight among the 6 classes. So they're talking about the form and the formless realms, all right, of all these beings across the spectrum of visibility and invisibility, density, from dense to subtle beings, from complex beings to very, very simple single-celled organisms like bacteria. They're all included in this great aspiration for their freedom. So from the very first, since awareness does not dawn for deluded beings within the ground, they are entirely mindless and confused. This itself is unawareness, delusion's cause. And then, as if out of a sudden daze, there is anxiety and mental disquiet, from which notions of self and other and enmity appear. Yeah, so there's this natural like aggravation, discomfort, especially when we're self-absorbed and overly idealizing our self-preservation and things like that. So as this habitual tendency is then reinforced, samsara unfolds in its regular progression. Thus, mind's afflictions, the 5 poisons, develop, and actions born of these 5 poisons never end. Therefore, since the basis for being's delusion is a lack of mindfulness, an absence of awareness, through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may all beings recognize their own awareness. So simple and beautiful. The unawareness that is co-emergent is a state of mindlessness, distraction. The unawareness that designates is dualistic clinging to self and other. These two, co-emergent and designating unawareness, provide the basis for the delusion of all beings. As everything is always co-emergent, remember we've gone through that. If you're walking around a mountain in your dream from last night, if you're walking around the forest paths of a mountain, well, the forest and the mountain has to be co-emerging as you're walking through it, as you're thinking. So maybe we can assume, just for the sake of discussion, that you're thinking on a lucid level, mountain. Remember, when you do lucid dreaming, you're not saying make a mountain. It's a lucid cognition that's making the mountain. And so you're making that mountain and your mind is propping it up. So let's say here's a thought of a mountain and here's the mountain itself. Well, as soon as I have the thought, the mountain appears. And then I'm actually, the interdimensional miraculous power of our mind, I'm actually then in that co-emergent, propped up, architecture of the mind. I'm walking around it. So my mind's saying, hey, let me hold up this trail for you and you walk through it, okay? And then I take on the place of subjectivity and walk through this trail that my mind's making. And I have feelings about it. Wow, I love this trail. So talk about interdimensionality of the psyche. It's truly fascinating. But it always has to be co-emergent, purely present, atemporal, okay? Otherwise, the whole thing would definitely not work. So there's only the appearance of time. We're dealing with the fourth time here. So that which holds past, present, and future. Pure presence holds past, present, and future. So yeah, now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may the dark and murky gloom of mindlessness among all sentient beings in samsara be dispelled. May their dualistic perceptions be purified, and may they recognize their very own awareness. A mind of dualistic clinging is one of doubt. From subtle attachment, once it has arisen, habitual tendencies gradually gain strength. Food, wealth, clothing, home, and companions, the pleasures of the five senses, or dear relations, whatever is attractive brings the torment of desire. These are the delusions of the world. Actions based on dualistic clinging are unending. When the fruits of attachment come to ripen, they bring birth as a preta tormented by desire. Preta would be a hungry ghost. How wretched are the pains of hunger and thirst! Now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may beings beset by craving and attachment neither cast aside the torment of desire nor pursue the cravings of attachment, but by allowing the mind to relax just as it is, may they capture the natural state of awareness and gain the wisdom of perfect discernment. So there, now we're going through the five wisdoms, okay? Yeshi, we're gonna have to go back on this one because that one gives you the instruction. This is what everybody's missing. Well, not everybody, hopefully, but so many are missing the self-liberation part. By allowing the mind to relax just as it is. That's what I'm always reminding you of. That's what we're reminding each other of, because it's very, very difficult just to remember. Let go. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to fix this. There's no stage to get to. There are no accomplishments to achieve. Um, just be here. Relax into it. That's it. But that trajectory, that orientation, that sort of direction is difficult. We're used to being projected out like headlights, like car headlights. And that's consciousness with surface, as Buddha Shakyamuni called it. But in this case, we're turning the headlights off and we're allowing mind, because mind is like that. It can project. We can feel each other's minds projecting. But when you release that projecting, oh, it's so comfortable for other people and the animals to just have a mind free of that, even subtle projections. Somebody's speaking to you and you're not thinking of anything. You're not judging them. You're not evaluating them. You're letting them be revealed, like listening to a song. Just listen to life. Listen to life with the mind. Dance to the life of the mind. So beautiful, really. Even in our stomach aches and our coughing and our fevers, it can be there. So to me, it's so beautiful that this relatively short yogic song, is including the pith instructions. Okay. Through the subtle stirrings of anxiety and fear towards the appearance of external objects, habitual tendencies of aversion are reinforced, opening the way of enmity, injury, and slaughter. When the fruits of aggression come to ripen, how harrowing will it be, the boilings of burnings of hell. Now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may all sentient beings of the six realms, whenever they are beset by intense aggression, neither reject nor indulge in it, but relax therein. Isn't that? It's telling you, everybody, even in intense aggression, with the view you don't need to relax or indulge in it, you just settle into it. Um, yeah, pretty profound. The ancient and modern timeless secret. Um, Cognitive science is really some of the only ones coming close to it at this point, in my opinion, to a significant level where actual practitioners can gain freedom, and it's not just this guru worship. Like, okay, I'm the awakened one. Well, what about everybody else? Yes, they make a fortunate connection. That's wonderful, but I think it'd be great if they could have some freedom. Yeah, and this is radical stuff to relax into your aggression when it's happening, to it's paradoxical. It's a healthy paradox, but you can actually sort of, you're in your aggression. You're just kind of letting it flow through you at that point, rather than being caught up in the movie, so to speak. So it says capture the natural state. I like Adam Piercy's translation here. Really wonderful that he uses realization instead of understanding too in many key places. This is a 2019 translation, so we have really the power of all these translators throughout decades coming together, and now we have this modern version that's packed with pretty cool lingo, in my opinion. So it says capture the natural state of their own awareness and gain the wisdom of lucid clarity. Mhm. When the mind grows conceited, it brings thoughts of rivalry and disdain, and the arising of intense pride leads to the suffering of quarrels and disputes. So we're talking about pride here, one of the five kleshas. We're going through all of them and their counterpart, the wisdoms. And there's so much more included in this kind of twilight language that's encoded here. So when the fruits of such karma come to ripen, they bring birth as a deva subject to passage and fall. Remember, when they're talking about hungry ghosts like thirst, you see that. You see that on the streets of LA and Philadelphia. You see thirsty, hungry ghosts. Their minds have turned into one thought has become possessed them. It's basically just one set of thoughts rooted in one root thought that has possessed them. It's that easy. One thought sends people to fanaticism like suicide or religious wars and things like that. Um, we see the hungry ghosts and we see the, the devas, which are kind of like demigods, and we see them here, very powerful beings, but very caught up in the sense world. And to get caught up like that, you can make your life last very long like that, eating the healthiest foods, getting all the healthiest health care, and all that stuff. But it gets you attached into the pleasures of the sense world. So that's what they're talking about there. Now, through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may all sentient beings in whom conceit is born relax their minds there and then, capture the natural state of their own awareness, and realize the true meaning of equality. So, this is also radical because out there in the world, instead of doing what is a trend right now, pointing at jealous people, joining at, pointing at, joining in and pointing at people who may deal with narcissism and pride and various forms of conceit. We don't point at them. We want them to be free. That bully that bothers you, that person who's unkind to you, challenging you every day, have one thought and one thought only, right here. May they recognize their awareness. Your parents, very important to make peace with your parents. Do it like that. May they recognize awareness. Even if they send you 10 pages of emails. I don't know if it's totally skillful to respond, may you recognize your awareness, because they may take that a certain way. But you may type a paragraph back to them, but in your heart, may you recognize awareness. That's all I care about. All right, very nice. And then realize the true meaning of equality, which is the counterpart, the flip side to pride. Habitual tendencies of intense dualistic clinging bring about the pain of self-flattery and contempt, and by inflaming conflict, dispute, and competition, lead to birth in the Asura realm of slaughter and mutilation, which in turn results in uh, looks like descent to the domains of hell. I don't really like all the hell talk, but it's talking about your mind becoming hellish. All right, please don't do the Judeo-Christian overlay in there. But it's just a fact. We see people obsessed with violence. We see it, don't we? How their mind just becomes so wrapped up into it. And these are books that you can check out from the infinite. So if you have violent thoughts, you can just let them come and go. Put that book back. You know, nah, just because you had a violent thought doesn't mean anything about identity and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm kind of going into teaching here. I want to breeze through this a little bit faster. So now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may those in whom rivalry and antagonism take root, not regard them as enemies, but relax there and then, capture the natural state of their own awareness, and gain the wisdom of unimpeded activity. Mindlessness, indifference, distraction, dullness, drowsiness, oblivion, insensibility, laziness, and stupidity result in helpless animal wandering. So the mind becomes like an animal, very sort of focused on the mundane kind of stuff. But so now through this, my aspiration as a Buddha, may the light of clear cognizance arise in those plunged into stupidity's gloom. It would be ignorance. And may they gain wisdom free of thought. All sentient beings throughout the three realms are equal to me, the Buddha, in the ground of all. Yet for them it is but a base of mindless delusion. And now they engage in meaningless pursuits, with sixfold karma, as if deceived by a dream. Yet I am the primordial Buddha, guide to the six classes through my emanations. So to me, on a very profound, sort of self-secret level, this speaks to how everything is teaching us. Everything in our life is manifesting to bring us home until it's not. Okay? Through this, Samantabhadra's prayer of aspiration, may all sentient beings, without exception, awaken within the Dhammadhatu, the absolute sphere. Emaho. Henceforth, whenever a powerful yogi, with naturally clear, undiluted awareness, recites this powerful song of aspiration, all sentient beings who hear it will awaken within the course of 3 lives. So that's saying that just like liberation upon seeing and various other ways to speak to mind, it's saying that it's very powerful. 3 lifetimes is not super precise in a sense. It's more of a generalization to say that relatively soon from hearing this. That's why I'm not in total agreement with keeping Dzogchen secret as well. I think it's self-secret. Now, there are caveats to that, like don't advertise and don't be unethical, but um, to me, talk about Dzogchen. It can only be a benefit. But if you advertise and get into money and sex, using it for sex and things like that, then you'll get burned by the fires. Yeah, for sure. And you've seen this with teachers. They abuse Dzogchen, so they get abused. Manipe Mehon. So when Rahu seizes the sun or moon, so it's talking about eclipses there, whenever the earth rumbles or quakes, at the solstices or close of the year, visualize yourself as Samantabhadra, which is no visualization at all, and chant this aloud so all may hear. Then all the beings of the 3 realms will, through the yogi's song of aspiration, gradually be freed from their suffering. And this also has to do with your view, how you're seeing all beings. They will be freed in your pure view and ultimately awaken as a Buddha. Very beautiful. Yeah, so this was extracted from the 19th chapter of the Tantra of the Great Perfection that reveals the all penetrating wisdom mind of Samantabhadra, which teaches that through making a powerful song of aspiration, all sentient beings cannot but awaken. Translated by Adam Piercy in 2019.